Well, we'll go live to North Block, where Union Finance Minister Arun Jaitley is briefing the media on the much-awaited goods and services tax.
Today's GST Council meeting has just over, so I would request him to kindly brief the outcome of the 2 days meeting of GST.
We've had a 2-day meeting of the GST Council and a half-day meeting today of the state finance ministers for the purposes of pre-budget consultations. Yesterday, there were 6 different sectors of the economy: banking, insurance, aviation, railways, exports, which amongst others made detailed presentations with regard to the requirements of their sectors before the GST Council. Some of them also made a point that particularly the telecom IT industries, that was the 6th segment, that they wanted centralized registration. Telecom, IT, banking, insurance made their case for a centralized registration really on the basis of the nature of their business. A person can sit and make a digital payment in one state, it will be registered, his account may be in some other state, the transaction of purchase may be in relation to a third state, and therefore they said really, rather than go interstate, they should have a central registration benefit, and then they can devise a system by which the share of taxation of each state in the transaction could be split up. So was the case of the IT industry, which said that their softwares envisage programming where data could initiate from multiple jurisdictions and reach multiple jurisdictions. Therefore, instead of going around getting registrations, give us the facility of a single registration. That's an administrative issue. That doesn't have anything to do with the legal drafts of the legislations on which the council will eventually, after it finishes its current work, will take a view. The third IGST law was discussed. It has 11 chapters. The initial 10 chapters really have been approved. And some issues remain open because they are in the process of being discussed. We'll be meeting again because the nature of discussion was inconclusive. We'll be meeting again on the 16th of this month and have a sitting to really conclude the discussion on those specific points. The drafts have been now, the legal drafts with the gaps, the gap means the undecided issue, are now being sent for legal vetting, after which they will be circulated in the GST Council for a formal approval. Now obviously, when I refer to the gaps, it refers predominantly to 2 or 3 issues, or issues falling under 2 big heads. And if I may just illustratively explain to you, the first retains to the definition of the word territory, and the second deals with both cross-empowerment and dual control. These could be technically 2 separate issues, but they can be, for classification purposes, clubbed into one. The issue of territory, it's a complex issue. The issue broadly is that area within 12 nautical miles into the sea is a part of Indian territory. And a question does arise, whose territory is it? Conventionally, service tax and customs is charged in those territories by the government of India. And some states had, as far as the fishing business is concerned, the constitution provides for fishing rights to the states in that area. What about other taxes? Some states have been levying taxes in the nature of sales tax or VAT. The center has not levied it. So the case of the states is that since we've been levying taxes, we should be allowed to levy taxes. The contra argument is this strictly does not fall within the definition of a state territory. And under Article 366, sub-Article 30, this is to be considered as a unionly administered territory. It's a union territory because the definition of a union territory in the constitution is that what is not a part of a scheduled state is a union territory. Now this issue has been pending in courts also and is currently before the Supreme Court. And before the Supreme Court, the government of India, which earlier was not very active in this litigation because it was between the assessees and the state governments, had some years ago jumped in and taken a stand that this is my territory, so I must be allowed to raise taxes in it. The case of the states is that we should be allowed to raise tax in this. So it's an issue which has to be, a constitutional solution has to be followed. And the solution has to be legally tenable. So I have told the council that we are examining it and we will try and see how this can be legally managed, because the answer to this problem is not political or not even an arrangement between the center or the state. It has to be found within the framework of the constitution that if it is union territory, can a state levy a tax within the unionly administered territory? They can do it only in their own territory. So it's a pure constitutional issue. The minister from Karnataka has suggested a particular formulation which we will consider. So the issue is, if I may say, very close to resolution, but we need a legal response to it. It has to be adequately tested. The next issue is with regard to the administration of the IGST and the cross-empowerment and the dual control and its management. Now this is a complex issue on which we've discussed on a couple of times earlier. We haven't found a solution. I must say today most states, many of the states were, an overwhelming majority, I would say, of the states had a very positive attitude, and we started the discussion which was inconclusive, and we've decided to meet on the 16th again so that we are able to untie the knots as far as this issue is concerned. And of course, post-lunch there was a meeting which every state government presented their own perspective and wish list of what should be done as far as the union budget is concerned. Some suggested it from the point of view of the issues concerning the state, some looked at it from the point of view of broad policy. We've taken note of those suggestions and we'll be responding.
Sir, can you throw some light on what happens to the deadline now? A lot of state FMs are talking about a July or a September possible rollout.
Well, I think you speak every time to the same set of FMs. So don't use the word lot.
No, but the Gujarat FM also did mention it yesterday.
Yes, we know the difficulty. We are moving against time. And that's why we are meeting on the 16th.
So politically, how big is the shadow of demonetization on GST discourse? Because we saw West Bengal FM also walking out of
a lot of finance ministers are raising the impact of demonetization on
Well, again, let me tell you, finance minister after finance minister today gave their own estimations of their December revenues. So in December, revenues of state governments relate to what has been collected for the month of November. That data in the states is available on the 22nd of December. And a number of them gave details of how there has been a revenue increase in some of those states. And therefore, it's we've asked the states to furnish us the data and also give us the comparative data of the last 2-3 years, so that month to month pattern we can study.
सर डिमोनेटाइजेशन पे एक और इशू ये है कि जो 31st के बाद आरबीआई में ही केवल जमा कराने का है, इससे लेकर के काफ़ी परेशानी हो गई है। और केवल आपने 5 जगह की बात की, दिल्ली, मुंबई, कोलकाता, चेन्नई और नागपुर। और पहले जो पीएम का अनाउंसमेंट था उसमें ये था कि 31 मार्च तक सभी कर सकते हैं। तो अब जो ये नया ऑर्डिनेंस
और पीएम का ये नहीं था, पीएम ने स्पेसिफिक कहा था कि उसके टर्म्स और कंडीशंस कौन कर सकता है, आरबीआई देगी। द वर्ड टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस वाज अ पार्ट ऑफ द पीएम्स एड्रेस।
लेकिन परेशानी तो काफी हो रही है सर।
देखिए, हर एक के पास 50 दिन की सुविधा थी और बड़ी से बड़ी मात्रा में लोग आ चुके हैं, तो परेशानी वाले तो बचे ही बहुत कम हैं अब।
But sir, if genuinely some people could not deposit the money earlier for whatever reason.
No, we don't go into whatever reasons. The RBI has fixed their own criteria, and at least I will respect that
सर, कुछ
criteria.
राजनीतिक दलों ने ये कहा है कि चुनाव आयोग ने चुनाव की तारीख की घोषणा कर दी, ऐसे में केंद्र सरकार को 1 फरवरी को बजट पेश नहीं करना चाहिए। तो उनकी मांगों में कितना दम देकर विचार करेंगे आप?
सर, कई दलों ने राष्ट्रपति को चिट्ठी भी लिखी है इसी बाबत।
मैंने पढ़ा है उनके चिट्ठी।
आपका क्या मत है?
आपका क्या मत है?
नहीं, ये वही दल हैं जो कहते हैं कि डिमोनेटाइजेशन की लोकप्रियता बहुत कम है, तो फिर वो बजट से क्यों परेशान है?
2012 में ऐसा किया गया था, जब यही 5 राज्यों के चुनाव थे, तो 15-16 मार्च को बजट पेश किया गया था। तो इस बार
देखिए, ये हर बार की परंपरा तो है नहीं। मतलब लोकसभा चुनाव से तुरंत पहले इंटरिम बजट पेश किया जाता है, आज तक तो रुका नहीं है। मतलब 2014 के चुनाव से भी कुछ दिन पहले इंटरिम बजट पेश हुआ नहीं हुआ, हर चुनाव से पहले होता है, वो तो एक संवैधानिक आवश्यकता है।
उस समय फुल बजट 16 मार्च।
Sir, 31st December is now way past. We are getting to hear now that 15 lakh crores almost has come back into the system.
I don't know the number, but when you know it, please tell me.
सर, डुअल कंट्रोल को लेकर क्या कोई नए फॉर्मूले पर विचार हो रहा है? बात कहाँ किस तरह से?
देखिए, मैंने आपको कहा कि अधिकतर लोगों का एटीट्यूड उस पर काफ़ी पॉजिटिव है, इसका कोई हल ढूंढने के लिए।
Some states are saying they want higher compensation now post demonetization because there have been revenue losses to the states.
देखिए, compensation is not linked to demonetization.
Sir, most states are in favor of dual control. The way, if there is a consensus of dual control among most states, why don't you go for voting instead of an outright consensus?
देखिए, I have been consciously avoiding the voting, and I'll give you the reason why. GST Council is a federal institution, and a federal institution in a large democracy like India, it's a very delicate organization, and therefore the fact that we have been so far able to resolve every issue by discussions, at times even long discussions, I think we want to establish this as an initial precedent of how the council functions, because its initial functioning will be cited as a precedent. Now, if you, instead of resolving it by a consensus and a discussion, if you in the very first instance start going in for voting without exploring all possibilities of a consensus, it won't be a good initial practice. Then this voting would be every year when you fix various decisions, the same practices will apply. So we want to use the avoid voting as far as possible as a settled practice. And I have said so in the council, so I have no hesitation of saying it here.
Well, that was Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, who was briefing the media after the GST Council meet. It's a two-day meet that went on yesterday and today. In fact, the meeting went inconclusive. That's what the Finance Minister apparently has said. He said there will be a meeting again on 16th January, and he expects to conclude these issues on 16th January meeting as well. However, he said there are certain gaps that need to be discussed, so 16th January meeting will help discussing that. And then he said there are two major issues. First issue is the definition of the word territory. And because he said that the issue of territory is complex, especially related to the waters and fishing rights in those territories, and a constitutional solution has to be given to this whole concept because the territory deals with Article 366 and Article 30. So FM said the answer for these issues should be found within the framework of the constitution. It should not be political. And the second and the most important issue what the finance minister said was the cross empowerment and dual control, which he accepted as a complex issue. However, he said that majority of the states had a positive attitude in this current meeting with respect to this dual control issue. And the meeting is inconclusive, so he said on 16th January they will be discussing this dual control as well. And then he also said that various experts from 6 different sectors have come and then have suggested certain centralized registration benefits. We will be discussing on them that as well. So that's what the FM said. So 16th January there will be another GST Council meeting, and then he expects that issues will be resolved in that meeting. So well, that's the end of this bulletin. Stay tuned to DD News. Namaskar.